Alright guys, hello and welcome to the lower level rankings of Splatoon, top 50 of Splatoon 2. Great. I was not supposed to show y'all this, but I guess since we're here, I'll let y'all look at it. I recommend you listen to what I have to say before you pause the video and look at it and look at 1 through 40 and then look at 41 through 55 and be like, what the fuck? Where's my team? Okay, before you get your pitchforks out, let me kind of explain what I had to do here. But yeah, all right. I want to talk about the Hall of Fame. So Hall of Fame is Destiny Troops, Crush Station Crusaders, West Broadway Grillers, Assault and Pepper, Twilight Anglers, Stargaze, and Nova. Reason for this is because I feel like these teams kind of set the foundation for lower level. Back in the day, there was no low ink. Really wasn't a monthly low ink back during the BNS days. There was no. If there was, my apologies. There was. I don't think SAC really existed. Ash Cup wasn't a thing. LSL damn sure wasn't a thing. Minnow Cup wasn't a thing at all either. So next time, if you're one of those people who want to say, "Oh, beta bracket level teams need something," no, you don't. You need to work for it. Winning a tournament shouldn't be that easy. It shouldn't just be handouts. So here's a tournament for you. Here's a tournament for you. It should be something you earn. It shouldn't be easy to do. It should be hard. You should have to grind for it. You should have to have some persistence and resiliency to, get to that point to where you are on top of the mountain and have that, like for instance, I think an amazing story was Ink in the System when they went 6-0. I think it was already been pointed out, but seeing that is, to me, it was amazing because it also kind of reminded me of the Wiggly Phantoms, how I would see them along with Ink Eye. I don't think or Illumini or when they used to be Ink Eye, they were, yeah, they when they used to be Ink Eye, I would see them every time because I would hassle Splat Force to play in every possible tournament known to man, and I would see them play in Xanadu series, which was lower level, but it wasn't like for their level. Like it wasn't like what Little Squid League is today, basically. And I'd see them play in Low Ink Ash Cup, Xanadu series, and I'd see them not win a single set, but they would still keep going, and they reap the benefits of that, of grinding it out, of trusting the process. And so I think we need to kind of go back to that root. I think teams need to kind of learn that. But hey, but yeah, the way we kind of scrimmed each other, or the way I know Popgun mentioned it one time on the podcast that uh they played the Crusaders back in a BNS in I think around 5, because that was the only time in BNS that if you were a lower level team, you weren't getting your ass kicked. So he was like, they played each other and then they were like, hey, you want to be scrim partners, so they could get some actual practice rather than some jackasses who meme after 3 games. But yeah, that's kind of how we connected and stuff. And then, not to mention, when I know they're called the Grillers now, but I wanted to do West Broadway because of nostalgia of having them in the Div 6 Looty group along with Sploot Troops or Destiny Troops. That's kind of why I have the Sploot there. I kind of did that for nostalgia, but that was the most fun I've ever had in the Looty season because every set was a playoff, even though we had the Reborn Donkey Squids in our group, who was miles above all of us, but still, that was the most fun I've ever had in a Looty season, honestly, or even in a Looty Yeah, that's the most one I had ever had in a Ludi season because every set was a playoff set in the group stage, and then the playoffs were a whole different beast together. So I feel like these teams deserve to be here. Twilight Anglers, fun fact, they were my first ever low ink opponent, and I remember I was psyched to play them. I was excited. I felt it. It was an honor to play Twilight Anglers because I think during the time, I think Cohen was TO of, yeah, they were TO of Low Ink during that time. And when I saw that they were TO, and I was like, oh, your team's playing, I was like, it was kind of like an honor to play them, honestly. So, Stargaze, Nova, I used to see them around. Stargaze used to be my guys for people who don't remember. Um, I used to see them around and would always want to play both of these teams. Um, and then for Crustacean Crusaders, they were a part of that original group that got the Mom Spaghetti tournament. So that's kind of where the Mom Spaghetti tournament came from. I remember they would always play in low inks, and then they got seeded in Division 3 because they got better over time, and low ink lowered their skill cap, and Crustacean Crusaders were part of that group that got the last shot to, they got their last opportunity to play in low ink, to possibly win it or just to experience it for one last time. So, yeah, that's it for the Hall of Fame. For the eighth spot, I decided to give 5 teams because I couldn't decide between these 5 teams. Seven Thieves, Splat Force, Los Inklings, Ink Sync, and Splatarians. So I'll put out a poll for you guys to vote on that and stuff. All right. So before I get to this, let me just say this: that the teams. So the way I did this, I did 3 highest results. That was a mistake. In total, I had 95-ish teams. Yes, I think I had 95 teams because I ended up, it was 96, but I moved Nova to the Hall of Fame. But I had 95 teams I had to get 3 results from. And so as a result, I had to be kind of nitpicky. I didn't use Minnow Cup because one mode, not to discredit if you've won Minnow Cup. If you did win Minnow Cup, I used it as brownie points. Kinda if I couldn't decide where to rank you and another team, y'all were so close together, instead of going for a tie, I just went, all right, here you go. You get one. You get placed higher than them because you have, that, or LSO. LSL, same thing. Skill cap, not the same. Reason why I picked Ash Cup and Low Ink is because Ash Cup and Low Ink, when Ash Cup when Ash Cup did exist, they were the same skill level. Ash Cup was div 4 and below, but it was not just a copy clone of Low Ink. It was actually different. Excuse me. Um, you it started an hour earlier than Low Ink, and it was more EU friendly, and it was one day, and it was a different format. It was groups into single limb. So, and it also had a different map pool and kind of counter picks. Not that I am a fan of different map pools, but that's a different story. But yeah, so that's the one reason why I did so, and it was also for the 2020 teams, even though some of them didn't really need it, but I felt like it had been fair for teams that possibly needed it, that, just in case. But yeah, I'm gonna go through A through Z, all the teams that were up for nomination to be on the list. If you don't see your name on here, I'll explain in a bit why. Kind of why, and why I had to be so cutthroat, because every team that I'm about to name made alpha bracket at some point. Yeah, every team that I'm about to name in alphabetical order right now made alpha bracket at some point in time. So I had to be very cutthroat. I had to go through and I had to cut alpha bracket in half. So I had to be very picky. I had to be like, all right, top 8 or better. I said it was either top 8 or nothing, because that's kind of how it was. Because some of these teams, they never dropped below top 4 whenever they played low ink. Some of these teams never dropped below top 8 whenever they played low ink. And then some teams had some things that kind of carried them over the hump or kind of made them the exception. Some teams won beta and gamma, and then some teams won beta and um, in like a minnow cup or something like that. So yeah, I'll get to that in just a second. But to name the teams: Axis Denied, Aquatic Vanguard, Avalanche, Blazing Storm, Blue Ring Kraken, Blue Moon, Booyah Gang, Syntopia, Citrus, Colossal Bliss, Crimson Quake, Dark Rain, Deo Tsushi, Deco X, Delicious Nuggets, Dream Knights, Dynasty Dragons Wave, Essence, Evening Chickens, Falling Ink, Falling Sharks, Fluency, Freelancing Takoyaki, Fruit Punch, Fukatsu Angels, Geek Squid, GG Wasn't It, Heaven's Moonlight, Illumini, Ink Bashers, Ink Pressure, Ink Reapers, Ink Sync, INKD or InkD, Ink Illuminatis, ITAP, J Crotons, Crack United, Labyrinth X, Last Chance, Leg, Legato, Lois, Luau, Women Stars, Mahi Mahi Monsoon, My Leg Paradise, My Opsitus, New Horizon, Night Surfing, Nova, wait, no, excuse me, Oblivion, Outcast Ninjas, Persistence, Port Raccoon, Power Inc., Ryzen, Ravenous Raccoons, Red Sun, Resilience, Rising Matrix, Rising Stars, Sandstorm Tsunami, Sea Boys, Seki's Naga, Shining Storm, Sirius, Sleeping Seals, Snowfall, Solutions, Splatter Swim, Splatterlot A, Splatarians, Squid Killers, Squid Knights, Squid Row, Symphony, Synergy, The Krusty Crew, the Deep Fried Octolings, The Bunnies, Thimble IHOP, Toxic Haze, Twisted Time, Typhoon, Tyrant Inc., UCSD Esports, Unlighted, Up the Ante, Unlimited Wumi United, Valhalla, Wipeout Punks, Xanadu, Xylo, Yume Star. Alright, so before I get into the explanation of why some certain teams aren't on here, one, because 2020 teams are included, but also another reason, and also if you could be so kind to hit the like button. This took a long time to do, especially getting the results, because some of them I just had from stuff that I did for rankings, and then some of the stuff I had to go back and dig for, which is a lot. I did a lot of extensive research, so if you could just like give me a like and stuff, I'd appreciate it. But listen to what I have to say before you get your pitchforks out, because your team is not on here. Also, I didn't include pickups that won low ink or pickups in general because I wanted to be consistent. I said no pickups from the very beginning, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do no pickups. I just like I like having teams that have history, that have a story. So I'm sorry, that's no offense to any pickup or pickup group that's not on here, but so yeah. So Ink Killers, Shiver Me Feeders, Hero Fan Club. Hero Fan Club was a pickup, I don't care what anybody says. Pursuit was also a pickup, I don't care what anybody says. So yeah. If I did include pickups, they most likely would be on here. They would have most likely been on this nominees list. There's no guarantee they would have been on the list in general, because I can't make that promise. This was very kind of tight and cutthroat. So, alright. So, reason why some of these teams aren't on here, because they didn't meet the other criteria that I had. The one criteria for nominees was make alpha bracket consistently or win a beta bracket, and most teams did that. And then most teams that got on here were because they won low ink, or because they placed like in the top 8 of alpha bracket. So yeah. So if you went 6-0 on Saturday, and then Sunday you went 0-2, like went out at 16th place, 15th, 14th, 13th place, I had to be very cutthroat. I had to cut them out. And then I had another problem where there were teams that were stuck in the ninth, 10th, and like, yeah, the ninth and the 10th range, 10th place range, and 11th as well. And then some teams that would fall into a beta bracket sometimes. So I had to be very cutthroat there and eliminate them. So in total, I had to kind of eliminate 40 teams overall from being on the list. Because like I said, I had 90 plus, so I had to eliminate around 40-ish teams to to be consistent. I could have just been like, oh, I'll make it top 60, but I wanted to be consistent. I wanted to stay consistent. I wanted to stay consistent with the pickups and stuff, so I wanted to stay consistent here as well. Um, so that's why you don't see some teams that you thought probably had an argument to be on here, and then some teams just simply just didn't play enough low inks for me to make a case for them. Um, some teams, depending on what point in time that they played in, um, arriving and getting sixth place in 2022 compared to 2020 or 2021. I'm not gonna be one of those people and say low ink is easier or something, or low ink means nothing now. If you do something in low ink, if you win a bracket or if you win it, that's something to be proud of. I'm not gonna discredit that. Um, but for me, in my opinion, a team that would burst onto the scene, get second or third, or even just sixth or fifth in 2020 holds a lot more weight, because during that time I knew how tough it was to make it to alpha bracket compared to now. It's not easy now either, but back then it was literally cutthroat. You had to go 5-1 or 6-0 in order to make alpha bracket, or if you went 4-2, you had to pray your opponent win percentage was high enough to get you over the hump. And sometimes some out name brand alpha bracket teams would end up in beta, and they'd be like, you know what, fuck it, we're dropping because we don't want anything short of alpha. That was the mindset for those teams back in 2020. And it's like, you also weren't guaranteed, if you got fourth or fifth 1 month in 2020, you weren't guaranteed to make it back to that same spot. You're still not guaranteed now, but but in 2020 you could have played the exact same and ended up in beta bracket. So like, it was a lot different. Like I said, that's not to discredit anyone playing now or anyone that played in the, both after 2020 or in the future. uh, I'm not gonna be that guy and be like, "Oh, low ink is means nothing. It's easier." I think that's a ridiculous take. Um, does the skill level change per tournament depending on who signs up? Yes, I do agree. I do think that is a thing, but to say that low ink means nothing because Citrus is no longer there, or Geek Squids or Crack Unite or Heaven's Moonlight is no longer there, is kind of ridiculous. We have new teams coming up like Sia, Ink in the System, um, um, the Elegant Crusaders. I wish they would change their name. Who else? Um, Not to mention Cake, who just won LSL, who could potentially be in alpha bracket in the next couple of months. You never know. So yeah, a lot of different the Splat-A-Lot teams like Splat-A-Lot S, Splat-A-Lot E, um, you know, have a lot of up and coming. It's just a new generation that's coming in. So just because a new generation comes in doesn't mean that Lowing has lost any value. All right. Talk a little bit briefly about some things. I want to talk about ITEP because they were very close to making this list. They just didn't have a strong enough result to get them in. They did get sixth place, I think, in October 2021. But at a point in time when they won Gamma Bracket and then they went back the next month and won Beta as well, a lot of people thought they were going to go into Alpha Bracket next month. And I think they did do that, but a lot of people thought that they were gonna win it after win it the next month. When they were gonna win Loink the next month, and that would have been something no other team had done at the time, and they had to take a break due to college, which is fair. But during that time, they were a different beast, and they just were missing maybe one or two more really impactful results to get them on here. Like I said, I didn't hold much weight to the beta and gamma or in other tournaments because either lower skill cap or one mode. So I did kind of give brownie points, and I'm just gonna be a bit honest. This honorable mention may be a little bit biased, but I don't think I think all these teams deserve it. I think all these teams deserve it. Um, I just think they kind of fell through. If you remove the 2020 teams, they're in the list, and I have to fill out and I have to give out maybe 10, 15 more spots uh, to a few other teams that are not on this list if you remove some of the 2020 teams. So, um, adding the 2020 teams kind of bumped them down. Like it bumped a lot of other teams down. So, yeah. Um, I don't think I have to speak about some of the other teams. I don't think I have to speak on Legato, My Obsidious, Yume Star, Heaven's Moonlight, Crack United. I think the My Like Paradise. I think what they did kind of speaks for themselves. This is only lower level results only, so don't scream at me if you see freelancing takoyaki here and you say, but didn't they beat Hollow or something like that? I remember they did something in an open tournament. I think it was Infinity Cup, and they did something amazing that had people thinking, whoa, they're gonna win low ink. But this is only lower level stuff. Only freelance and takoyaki did get on the list, so don't freak out on me. But we won Mako. Only lower level, only the results that I said, which was low ink and Ash Cup, and I gave brownie points from because this does say top 50 teams, top 50 lower level teams of Splatoon 2. So, um, Citrus, Evening Chickens, Fukatsu Angels, they were very consistent during their time, along with the Deep Fried Octolings. But after the Deep Fried Octolings kind of won and they went, I think Citrus, Evening Chickens, and Fukatsu Angels kind of shined after. At least for me, in my opinion. I remember facing Evening Chickens for the first time ever, and remember seeing all of their ranks, and I'm just thinking, whoa, are these guys like, did they like lose their save data or something? But they were a very fantastic team, and I think they deserve to be this high along with the other two, Citrus and Fukatsu Angels. Access Denied, I don't think we gave Access Denied enough flowers. I think we said they're I don't think we really gave them enough flowers because what they had to deal with is it took a lot of mental toughness, and for them to still place as highly as they did in alpha bracket, um, sometimes with the competition that was there, not to mention they had to come up with the 2020 teams where they had to fight in order to get their way into like not even alpha but just beta bracket, and then once those teams moved on, they had to deal with not only some teams that were still there that were waiting for their chance. I think Popgun kind of calls them the blue blood alpha bracket teams. Not only did they have to deal with those who are now the monsters of the tournament, they had to be a blue blood alpha bracket team, and then once they weren't a blue blood alpha bracket team, they had to deal with teams like Citrus, Evening Chickens, Fukatsu Angels, the Deep Fried Octolings, Cracking United, Heaven's Moonlight, My Like Paradise, My Opposites, Yume Star, Crimson Quake, Inked, Squid Killers. They had to deal with all those teams that were that were up and coming and rising through the ranks as well, while also trying to maintain and hold their position. So I don't really think we gave. And then they also had to deal with teams coming out of nowhere like Lois. um, so like I really don't think we gave Access Denied their flowers enough, or really appreciated what they did. Um, I don't know. Same thing with Squid. I think you could say the same thing with Squid Row. It's just at some point you thought if they just play another tournament to get them some momentum before the next low ink, they could probably win it. I think one thing that I always said is if Squid Row plays in an open tournament, they can get some bannable results, and I stand by that to this very day. Um, Unfortunately, they disbanded before they could get the chance to, um, before they could really win it, win low ink. But they came very close, man. They came very close. I think it was the low ink fluency one, which they came very close. Snowfall, I don't think I have to say much about them. Um, Coming back after getting second and then coming back again and placing consistently high, is not easy. It really isn't. It's unfortunate that this team disbanded before we could really see them have their final shot to win low ink, but they were a great team, honestly, during their time. Red Sun and Twisted Time, I don't think I need to talk about that. They what they did was legendary. Twisted Time being the sports and the competitors that they were, being like, hey, we'll take on Red Sun because Dynasty Dragons had to go to bed, and then Red Sun being the sports that they were, being like, hey, we would like to give the money to Twisted Time. Like, Twisted Time didn't have to agree to playing Red Sun, and Red Sun didn't have to be as sportsmanlike as they were. So honestly, legendary set. Honestly, just what they did. It's all about the competition, and I can't really say that I myself would do the same thing, or if any other team would do the same thing. I don't think a lot of teams can put themselves in that position where it's like you're finally, after all this time, um, you're finally in low ink grand finals, and the team you're playing just up and left, and you could just walk away with the trophy, or you can stand your ground and play against the team that just got eliminated, in losers finals, and you can possibly play more Splatoon. Because granted, they had already played 4 games. They were already 4 games, actually 5 games, because they disconnected in the middle of game 5. And Twisted Time didn't have to agree to that, honestly. So honestly, I think it was pretty fitting putting them together. That was my plan from the beginning, to put them together. So all right. Serious, and what they this team was just as fun as Snowfall to watch, in my opinion. Um, Serious, Snowfall, VD Pride Octolines, and Cracky United, I feel like they share a lot of similarities. I don't know just how, that may be a stretch, so forgive me, but I just feel like with how consistent they were during their times, it's just like, surely, like when you looked at those names, you were like, surely they're gonna win it, and at some point, but yeah, what they did after low level, I think, speaks for itself, and they deserve to be here, for sure. Sea Boys and Avalanche, during their time, they were dominant. during the 2020 times when you came on to the scene in 2020 and just dominated or just placed in the alpha bracket, knocking a name brand alpha bracket team down a peg. That was impressive because it was not easy. Those teams during the time in 2020 held their own. They defended their fort. They said, hey, if you're gonna come in here and try to win low ink, you're gonna have to earn it. And those teams kind of did it. They didn't win, but they did earn their placing. Port Raccoon and Persistence. Now I put out a poll just asking who's more consistent. I'll get to that in just a second, but Persistence, I think Genesis called them the alpha bracket gatekeepers, and they were the alpha bracket gatekeepers. If you wanted to make alpha bracket, Persistence is one of those teams that you had to go through. You really had to go through. You had to go through it. You had to go through them. You had to beat them. In order to, especially if they were in your group. Same thing with Puerto Raccoon. You had to beat them at some point, because at any moment's time they could have a pop-off tournament and just ruin your whole run altogether. So both of these teams were very dangerous. Honestly, you could tie them both for 10th or whatever, but I think I gave it to Persistence simply because they were able to get second place 2 times in a row, which was not easy during that time. It's not easy even now, but like I said, back in 2020, you weren't guaranteed. Especially if you were a consistent team, you still weren't guaranteed to get to alpha bracket. Splatter Swim, I think that speaks for itself, man. This team was amazing. The double sploosh and double try comp, that was amazing. Their rivalry with Geek Squid, just overall, this team was a force to be reckoned with. They were stacked from top to bottom, especially Genesis. Great player, honestly. Was a headache to play against, but great player nonetheless. The whole team was a headache. Kipu on the Splatling, I think one of the and I may be bold for saying this, but probably one of the best Splatling players to ever play in low ink, in my opinion. They were so versatile. They were very versatile. They could play anything. They could play Hydra, they could play Heavy, they could play Mini, they could play, I don't know if they ever played a Nautilus, but they could pretty much play any Splatling at any point in time. And to me, that is impressive. Okay, Deco X, this was an all-star roster of a team. I remember seeing this roster and it was like, I do not want to play against them. I don't. I when I saw that roster, I was like, yeah, I don't want to play against them. Let's avoid Deco X until we have to play them in the alpha bracket as much as possible. Cause like I was waiting for the day that this team either just won it or just got kicked out. But unfortunately, I think they disbanded. I'm not sure what quite happened to this team, but I think they might have disbanded before they could really have a knockout blow at getting the chance to really win it. But yeah, moving on to number 6, Luau. Luau is the only team on here to win both Ash Cup and Low Ink, and Ash Cup was no slouch. Ash Cup was basically just as hard as Low Ink, even though, you know, less matches because you only had 4 or 5 groups in 4 or 5 teams in the group stage, and then single elimination. You know, it's like you're one and done, so it added even more pressure. But even though it was less teams, it was still the same level of competition as Low Ink, man. Especially with the teams that would sign up. Same level of competition. So if you went into an Ash Cup, that you pretty much went into an Ash Cup to warm up for what's to come for Low Ink, because not every team could play both. So yeah, for me that's impressive. Winning Low Ink and then going back and then going to win the Ash Cup is an impressive feat for me. Rising Matrix,
speaks for themselves. They speak for themselves. The way that they won was very dominant. Um, I don't know if I forgot what the stats were, but I know they did not drop a single set. And the team above them also didn't drop a single set as well. But I don't know how many games that they dropped, but the Rising Matrix was. I remember watching the low ink because it was the biggest one because they had to separate the teams to 4 Swiss groups, and I remember watching it and looking at it, and I was like, wow, my jaw dropped. I kind of debated putting them on here, but I decided to do it. It was only fair. They did make history, so I had to put them on here. Xylo, I think it speaks for themselves. They came onto the scene. They won low ink. Um, I don't think they were very highly rated. I'm not sure they were highly rated amongst the people when before the low ink before the low ink they won, but this team was so good. Honestly, this team was really good. I um I really wish they would have stayed together a little bit longer. I really do think they could have been up there with serious in terms of their level when it came to them moving on to the next level. They could have been a very I think they would have been a force to be reckoned with for sure. All right, so like I said with that poll, I put out a poll and I listed 4 teams. I said Persistence, Port Raccoon, Rising, Last Chance. Who was more consistent? And a lot of people picked Persistence and Port Raccoon, which is fair, which is very much fair. But Rising and Last Chance, Rising, every time they played low ink, they got 3rd place. I may be wrong with that. I have to see, but out of the results I have, they got every single one, they got 3rd place. And then for Last Chance, every single one of I think I only found 2 things, two low inks from them, and they placed 2nd in both, and they were both on the winner side. So they went through a bracket reset and unfortunately they went through a bracket reset and ended up losing the tournament as a result. But that says a lot. When both of these teams signed up, you knew, or if one of them signed up, you knew you had to get through one, if not both of these teams to win low ink during the time. And to me, that is impressive. To have that type of presence in a tournament, to me, is amazing, and I think it deserves number 2 and number 3 respectively. Here, even if it was a short time, especially for Last Chance, I think it was kind of a short time. Even if it was a short time, that is still pretty dominant. Like, people know, hey, if we see this team, we got to get through them. We got to beat them at some point on Saturday or Sunday in order to get that gold, in order to get that right to call ourselves low ink champion. So, and then my number 1, I said my number 1 is not up for debate, and I stand by that. My number 1 is Xanadu. Xanadu won the Big 3 back in the day because SAC, for those who don't know, SAC used to be a lower level tournament, or used to be considered one. It was something for low ink winners to play after they got the boot, so they kind of just sat around and waited for that. Now SAC is no longer like that. You kind of have to grind for it if you are a low ink winner, and which is great, honestly. But they won. They got 2nd in Ash Cup 3 or 4. It was the one they played Destiny Troops, and then they also turned around and Ash Cup 5 they won. They got 1st place. I remember playing them in that Ash Cup, and that set was amazing. It was fun. The intelligence, the knowledge of the game that this team had, the knowledge that this team had of the game is, you could see it in their counter picks and the way they just played with each other. Honestly, it was a beautiful thing. It was scary to play, but it was a beautiful thing, honestly. And then last but not least, they turned around that same month and one low ink, which, like I said, they had to go through Last Chance and Ryzen, because Last Chance was in on the winner's side, and then Ryzen was also in that tournament as well. So Xanadu, outside of Destiny Troops, because Destiny Troops did win Ash Cup and a low ink, but they're the only team, Xanadu, to win all three that I just named: SAC, low ink, and Ash Cup. So back in the day, that was kind of considered the big three. They kind of did something that was only possible during their time. So who knows? We might be able to see that in Splatoon 3 if Ash Cup ever comes back, and then if that team also turns around and wins low ink and then goes on to shoot up and win SAC, which won't be easy. That'd be quite amazing, honestly. But I didn't include SAC in here. I just kind of used it as a reference because when I was thinking about it and I thought about what this team did during their time, um, I I found that impressive. So I didn't include SAC results. I just used it, like I said, I just used it as a reference point. So don't come screaming at me with your, don't come to my DMs with a screenshot of what you did in SAC, because SAC is totally different from what it was back then. So, um, but yeah, that is it. Thank you. I'll make sure to link the poll. Make sure you vote on that. I do have a doc of all of the lower level rankings that I did for Splatoon 2. Well, let me not say all of them. I have the March 2021 all the way until August. Well, not August, all the way up until May. Up until May, I do have those. So, I do have those. So, I'll make sure to link that in the near future before then. As for rankings, for Splatoon 3, I'm trying to figure out how to do this point system because a lot of you want a point system, which was a mistake, but hey, I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I'm going to take September and October off because by then we should have more things up and running as far as lower level stuff. It's the same thing as usual. Low ink count, low ink, you have to finish day one. You have to finish day one in order to qualify to be on the list. So it's low ink day one or day 1 and 2. Then it's, if you don't play low ink, you have to play middle cup and LSO or middle and low ink or LSO and low ink, whatever. Obviously it'll probably be different because it's a point system. So you probably won't have to play 2 tournaments. It probably would help you since it will be a point system, but that's all I had to share about that. Yeah, please hit the like button for me. I'd very much appreciate it if you did so. I'd make my day. Let me know if that people actually listen to these or like listening to these. So yeah, thank you for watching if you've made it this far. Thank you for all of the support of, I guess, paying attention to these rankings, because you could just ignore this shit. Like we could just ignore Ludi divisions, but hey, but yeah, thanks. I will see you all in Splatoon 3, hopefully.